Hey folks, as you can see, I'm beaming in from outer space today. How you all doing? Okay, I'm just going to move this window over here. So I've got this set up somewhat differently than I have before. I'm using two computers, so it's all a bit confusing for me. So apologies in advance for any errors that happen. But basically, what we're talking about today is the drafting process. We've been doing this series of live streams about making and my process more dynamic and less static, because I've realized that this is, it's something that I didn't even know I was doing or wasn't doing in my past career. And even when I came back to music in my current career, until I started fully making music live, I didn't have this insight, this realization. So this is a completely new thing just this year in 2021. Well, when I say it's completely new, obviously people are interested in making music without a DAW. They're interested in using hardware. But I'm not sure that many people have understood what it is that they're actually looking for in doing that, because when you use a DAW, or when you don't use a DAW, or where you use hardware, or where you use software, you can still end up in the same place of, as you get closer to the end of a piece of music, it gets harder, it gets slower, it gets less fun, depending on the kind of mind that you have. But there's definitely, in a lot of cases, a lot more second guessing. You get bored of it. You know, the process stretches out. You start feeling like the problems multiply, all that kind of thing. And in sort of my playing around with, just stopping my Dropbox there, in my sort of making music live capacity, I've been developing various different ways to, obviously making music live is as dynamic as it gets. But even when you don't, obviously because I'm coaching people at the same time who don't want to make music live, but who do want a more fun and fulfilling process, who want to feel, like musicians again, rather than like they're checking their email, or they're at their office job sitting in front of the screen. The problem isn't actually the screen, because even hardware has a screen. Even, where are we? Yeah, even this has a little screen here. It's not really the screen that's the problem. It's not the DAW that's the problem. It's not the software that's the problem. What it is that recording technology, it kind of sucks us into this static process where we're not actually interacting with the music in real time, because music exists in time, obviously. I don't know who it was that said that time is the musician's canvas, but right there is what I'm talking about. If we assemble everything, and there's no risk, there's no actually doing something in time, then it's very, very difficult. It just becomes very, very difficult to finish anything. Not impossible, because I did it for like 20 years. I even finished an album that way when I came back to making music in 2018. So it is possible, but it's much more difficult. And you start feeling like, you're moving files around with a mouse, rather than being a musician. So essentially what these live streams are about are kind of how you can make your music well, make your process really, take it from being static to more dynamic. And how dynamic you make it is completely up to you, right? Because there are going to be, if you're going to produce music like traditionally, so it's not like 100% live and you just do it and then it's done. Yeah. So, anything beyond sort of before someone like Beardyman, who literally makes music with his mouth, and if you've not heard any Beardyman stuff, you've got to go and check him out. He's on YouTube, and whether you like the kind of music that he makes or not, it is amazing technically what he does, and the way that he does it it's absolutely incredible. Where he makes music with his mouth and he loops it. And it's literally like live drum and bass, just with his mouth. It's unbelievable. So anything, that's as dynamic as you get. And there's a really good example of how the point isn't door or doorless, because he's doing this with Ableton and his mouth, and he's got the most dynamic process. I've seen anyway. It's more dynamic than someone doing modular, right? Nothing is programmed. It all comes from his mouth, and he does it all live in a DAW. Okay, Ableton. Yeah. So you don't have to go all the way to the end of the spectrum to be completely dynamic. It can be static in places. If you want to finish pieces of music in that you want to mix them and master them, and we'll talk about the mixing and mastering tomorrow at this time, but not so much the mastering, but more the mixing. But if you want to finish music, then there are going to be some static parts of your process, but it can be, even in a static process, you can start to bring in more and more dynamic elements. And the benefits of this are you have more fun. It goes quicker. You start to feel like a musician again, if you were a musician before and have started to feel like an office worker, right? Or if you haven't been trained as a musician, you can start to feel like a musician for the first time, maybe. And yes, at first, the music may actually be slightly worse. Right? But with practice, and this is a point, with practice, it gets better. And because the thing is about a dynamic process, so here's how to think about it. In a static process, the effort is distributed infinitely into the future. Right? Your effort is distributed forever. Okay? And it never changes, right? It's the kind of the same amount of effort forever, because you're having to fix essentially your mistakes or fix your lack of skill, yeah, or make up for it by editing everything into supposed perfection. And along that way, so many things get lost, so many things don't get finished. So the effort is like infinite into the future. In a dynamic process, the effort, you move the effort to, it's almost like the effort is in post-production. Yeah, but forever. In a dynamic process, what you're doing is shifting the effort to pre-production, right? But then it becomes easier forever. It becomes better forever. Right? Because the more that you practice, the quicker you'll be able to do it. Yeah. And the music starts getting made more and more in the time it takes to make it. Yeah. So you could literally become an automatic music machine. I mean, since I started streaming every day live on the March the 9th, 2021, with a piece of music every day, I've got no idea. I mean, it's like hundreds of hours worth. I mean, literally hundreds of hours worth of music, and I haven't actually gone public with all of it. Yeah, and yes, probably the majority of that music has been anything from okay to not that great. But that doesn't matter, because some of it has like completely blasted away anything I did in the past, and it can only go up from here, right? So again, I've decided to go I mean, I'm not quite as live as Beardy Man, but I've got not quite as dynamic as Beardy Man, but I have decided to go very, very far towards the dynamic end because that works for me. But you don't have to do that. Yeah, you can still, if you enjoy the sort of doorness of it, if you enjoy kind of the assembling, the solving of the puzzle part, because I do enjoy that too, about a more static process, trying to figure out the problem. If that you can still bring in more dynamic processes and significantly reduce the amount of time it takes, significantly increase the fun that you have, and in the end, over time, increase how good it is. And the final bit, which I've not mentioned so far, is it sounds more like you. Right? Think about it. If you want your music to be authentically you, then you actually performing it, whether it be twiddling an automation knob or, playing a virtuoso piano solo. And I'm not talking about myself there when I'm talking about virtuoso piano solos. But anyway, whether you're a trained musician or whether you're not a trained musician, you actually doing the thing rather than drawing the thing, is going to sound like you, like by definition. Yeah. So what we're talking about today, in the first stream, if you want to go back and look at them, the first stream that I've done over this series, the first stream was about setting up. Second stream was about how I'm using idea generation to practice. And now we're on to the drafting process. And there's a lot to talk about here, so I'm not going to be able to do it all. If you're on my email list, I'm going to do a week-long program about this called the 7-Day Track Blitz. If you're not on my email list, just send me an email if you're interested in the details about that. It's the week after next. It's a live online workshop program. We're doing it on Zoom with 4 sessions where I actually get you to make music. It's going to be a lot of fun. But don't worry if you don't want to do that. But if you want details about that, send me an email to mike@makemusicyourlife.com, and I'll send you back some details about what it is and all of that kind of thing. It's called the 7-Day Track Blitz, and I'm really excited to really be teaching this stuff and helping people in this way, because it really has. It feels like, as I said, I feel like a musician again, rather than an office worker. And there's nothing wrong with office workers, obviously, but I don't know, I just don't really want to feel like I'm checking my emails when I'm making music. Anyway, so, I seem to be peaking a little. Hopefully the sound is okay. Apologies about that. I've got so many, it's very, very, way more complicated than before, because I'm using one machine to stream on and one machine to do the music on, and trying to make those two things come together and get the levels right, and everything's a bit so forgive me if there's a bit of a level problem. What I might suggest is that if you're listening on headphones, you lower the level a little, just in case if I play something and it comes in really loud, okay, or there's some feedback or something, because I haven't quite got it fixed. So I just wanted to give that warning now. If you're listening on headphones, maybe just be careful of the level you're listening on, or maybe don't listen on headphones if you don't have to. There's not going to be anything seriously amazing to hear. I could promise you that. Other than my words. So anyway, hello John, hello Tama, hello Mr. Bird, hello Tim, and hello Todd. Why don't we kick off with you just letting me know, I've just given you that little intro about static versus dynamic. I mean, how static do you think your process is at the moment, particularly at the drafting phase, when you're actually laying out the arrangement? Is it, do you feel, are you playing arrangements in, or are you, copying and pasting blocks on a screen? Just let me know in the chat kind of where you're at with it. And also, if you can, let me know what your challenges are in doing that, how you find that, what the problems are with doing that. I mean, do you enjoy arranging? Do you love it? Do you find it easy, or do you find it hard? How much success have you got out of it? And I will wait, because I haven't got it on low latency. I've got it on normal latency, so it'll take a while for the comments to come through. So I will start talking about how this all works. Okay, so the problem that a lot of people have, first of all, let's just say that problem of getting stuck in the loop is literally a thing of the past for me now. There is no such thing. There's no point at which there is a loop on a screen. The way I do it, and I'll come on to how you can do it no matter what you're doing, but the way I do it is all based upon these machines over here, and my camera seems to have stopped working. So anyway, but I'm pointing at the Moogs. It's very frustrating that this doesn't work properly. But anyway, just maybe if I turn it off and on. No, I might have to unplug it. Hang on a minute. So, where's the end? Hang on. There we go. There we go. Right. So, oh no, it's got stuck again. It's even worse than it was before. Anyway, so it's the Moogs, right? We're just going to have to deal with it. Oh, there we go. That's okay. So yeah, is the Moogs. Now, a couple of people have asked, it's really terrible, isn't it? Maybe I have to get a better adapter or something. Anyway, so how these beautiful machines work is they've got sequences in them, right? So the only loop that I have, if I work something out, I don't always work things out because you can just go with it, right? But the only loop that I have is working something out in the beginning. So for instance, right now, I've worked this one out before. Actually, the last two performance streams I did yesterday and the day before were different versions of the same tune. So the first one was called Diadem. The one yesterday was called Duodem. And I'll do one today to show you how I think about arranging dynamically, and I'll call it Triadem. Yeah. So anyway, so this is the loop that is worked out. Okay, so can't hear it. Hang on. Can you hear that? Yeah. Oh, hang on. Right, so working that out, because of the way that these machines work, is very, very simple. It doesn't take a lot. I mean, it takes 10 minutes, and it's not even working it out. You just twist knobs, basically, and you just go with it. I mean, it's so simple to do with these particular machines that I don't even have to work anything out. I mean, in a lot of the live streams I was doing before I moved into this place, when I was doing the hour-long ones, there was nothing worked out at the beginning. It just started. Yeah, so it's like it can go fully improv. Now, if you don't have machines like this, which are kind of very, very sort of I don't know, they're very vibey. And if you're just working in a DAW, then it doesn't matter. You can still spend a very, very short amount of time in the loop by just splurging out. I mean, at the end of the day, the rhythm that I've got is very simple. There's not, I mean, let's just listen to the rhythm. I'm slightly getting off track here because I'm supposed to be talking about the arranging and now I'm talking about the idea generation. But anyway, but I think what's important to say here is that if you're going to go to a dynamic process, you want to start with your ideas being very simple, just to start with. I'm not saying it will always be like this, because remember, you can do post-production even in a dynamic idea. Yeah. So start with very little. Okay. In my mastery program, I get people to choose just 3 instruments and beats. Okay. And a lot of people are like, oh no, but how am I meant to? You can add stuff later. But if you're going to play the stuff, if you're going to be more dynamic, you need to reduce the number of things you're doing. It's like eventually you can build up things like you take a look at, again, Beardy Man. I thoroughly recommend you go and check out his channel. I'm in his Discord and stuff as well. So, you know, I'm a supporter on Patreon. I just think he's absolutely amazing what he does. And it's not my first choice for style of music, but I don't care. I mean, he's a great musician as well. Absolutely killer. Like, whew. Why am I saying that? What's the reason? Oh yeah. So if you look at someone like Beardy Man, who's been doing it for 30 years, 20 years, I don't know how long, but a very, very long time, it's very, very complicated. And there's thousands of things going on and you're like, oh no, how am I ever going to get there? Well, how you get there is just by reducing the number of things you do. My music is very simple at the moment because I'm focused on practicing very little. I've got these 3 machines and a piano. That's it. Okay. So if you want to, the first point is, if you want to do anything dynamically, simplify at this stage, at the dynamic stage. Yeah, you can also always add stuff later. Okay. So if you listen to just the rhythm, sorry about the feedback. And that's it, right? So there's very, very, very little going on. The benefit of that is that you reduce the number of things you've got to think about and you get a basic idea of how the track needs to work, the shape of the track, without it all having to be there. Okay? It makes everything simpler, it makes everything quicker, it makes everything a lot more fun. And then you've got this dynamic structure, which you can then add to later. Yeah. So let me just go to some of these comments. John K says, a bit mixed for me. I tend to play a lot of things on a drum pad or a keyboard. Before I know it, I get stuck in a loop and it starts feeling less and less dynamic. Absolutely. Mr. Bird, a mix. Sometimes I play a lot, guitar and synth and jam, and record a lot of takes. Other times more loop based. Yep. Why, Todd, once I'm wired up with a great patch for a piece, I tend to avoid ripping it all up and starting a new one. A modular setup is a pain for me to document. Right, so that's interesting, Todd. Why do you need to document it? So, okay, so let's just talk about, so we've got people all kinds of doing different things here. So from what I can tell, I think both John and Mr. Bird are kind of recording things into a computer. So it sounds like, yes, it looks like maybe John is recording things in via MIDI, whereas Mr. Bird is doing some live stuff into a computer, whereas it sounds like Todd is a modular person. So let's just quickly talk about the modular thing and about this idea that you have to document everything. So I did at one point have a Trello board where I was taking photos of the way that I was patching this stuff. Okay. Saying, oh, but you've got to save that sound. It's, I've just got to do it. Now, yeah, I'm not saying don't do it, but the thing I want you to question is, why do you have to do it? Yeah. You can, but if you think about becoming more dynamic in every way, there is something really precious about having something, recording it, and then it never existing again. There's something really special about it. Yeah, if you have to document it so you can get it back, right? Doesn't that instantly put you into I don't take photos anymore even. So, but right, thinking you have to document it, it instantly it's removing an element of risk in a sense. So one of the reasons that dynamic music making is so much fun is because it's inherently risky, right? Because we've got to get the take. If we don't get the take and we're not documenting everything, then it's gone. But it's not actually that risky when you come to the point of actually sorting the track out, because what you're forgetting about, because there's this idea we need to go back. Yeah, we need to go back to the thing. So I need to document what it is so I can go back just in case if I haven't done anything right or there's something else I want to do, right? Then I got to get it perfect now, because then I'll be screwed if I don't. Right? That's a static way of thinking, because what you're forgetting is if you get a take and you think it's good, and then you come back and you haven't documented it and you change things around, and then you come back and it's not right. There's some mistake in there. Oh no, I can't go back. I haven't documented it. I don't know how to do it. You don't have to do that. You are now in a new situation where what do you have? What do you have that you can do? You have your creativity. Yes, the things that the state the music is in now isn't what you were hoping it would be back then, but you now have a different problem to solve. How do I work with this thing now? Again, dynamic, not my idea. I had a fixed idea back here, and now this isn't working with that. Oh no. So can you see, it's always about moving forward rather than protecting yourself by having this infinite, I must be able to go back. Yeah, if you really release that need to that sort of, I must be able to go back. I must be able to get back the way that it was so that I can reproduce it again. But the thing is, you didn't have it before you made it, right? Right? So you were able to produce something good. So why not just produce something else good? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like always looking forward rather than backwards, and trying to protect yourself. But yes, you might have a take where there are some mistakes. Well, what are you going to do? What can you do in that situation? There's a million things that you can do. How do you turn that mistake into something that is special? This is what you've got available to you at any point, which is your creativity. I mean, that is literally, think about Miles Davis. If you read the Herbie Hancock, I thoroughly recommend it actually, the Herbie Hancock autobiography. I can't remember what it's called now, but he actually wrote it himself. I don't know whether he had a writer who helped him, but anyway, it's great because he tells the stories. And just read the first passage of that. In one of my programs, I actually read it out because it's so good. Where he talks about they were playing at Montreux Jazz Festival. And it was an amazing gig, and it was just like electric. And they were playing, and then he made this absolutely massive mistake and felt so awful. And And he was just absolutely mortified. He was quite young at this time, and it was one of the biggest gigs of his life. Absolutely mortified. And then Miles Davis just played something that made it sound incredible. And the crowd, I mean, I can't remember the exact story, but basically he just played something and reinterpreted the mistake so it sounded amazing. And that mistake became something special because of the genius of Miles Davis, because of the creativity of Miles Davis. Yeah. So having to go backwards, having to have that safety, yeah, may well be the thing that is holding you back. Yeah. It might not be. Yeah. And obviously there is an element of wanting to get the best take. I'm not saying I just don't care about anything and just be completely careless. But remember that you don't have to infinitely go back and document all of it. I mean, again, we're doing administration rather than making music. The other thing to say is if you want to do better, if you want more safety, there is another option. Instead of spending all your time documenting, spend your time practicing. How about that? Again, looking forward rather than looking backwards. Okay, anyway, so yes, okay, so Todd says, yeah, to create live, to do the music live for future sets. Well, who says that your future sets have to sound exactly the same as your recorded music? You can take an idea and do a remix in your sets, and that's what you do. Or you could just be a musician who it's like, that's what you do. You just do new music. Yeah, I mean, if I for instance, if say this track became a massive hit, it won't. Let's just pretend and everyone wants to hear this Diadem track whenever I play live. Let's just play it again and see if I can avoid the feedback this time by muting my mic. Apologies, as I said, I haven't quite got this sorted. I'll get it sorted better as I go on. So this piece of music is very simple. It's just, why is the piano not working now? It was working before. Can you hear that? That's me. Yeah. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Well, I have to sort this out better in the future. 1, 2. Okay. So. Yeah. It's basically just that. Yeah. So I can just remember that. I mean, it's not that hard to remember. Yeah. So if you want to play your music live, it doesn't have to sound exactly the same. It doesn't even have to be that near. It could just be something that reminds people of it. That, it's almost like identify. If you want to remember what it is, remember certain things about it. You could even just take little samples, yeah, and use them. So there's lots of, yes, Todd. Herbie Hancock possibilities. That's it. So you don't, this idea that when you play live, it has to be a faithful reproduction of the recorded thing. If that is your choice as to what you do live. Yeah. If people want the faithful reproduction, then do a DJ set, right? But what, you know, it's almost like put on a tape. The point about live and thinking dynamically is that you let go of that need for it to be caught in amber. Anyway, let's actually get to the brass tacks, and I'm going to start giving you some actual things to do in terms of this arranging and this dynamic drafting. So the first thing to say is that, as I said, the preparation is front loaded. Yeah. So you want to determine some things up front. Okay. So you need to have some kind of a starting point, some kind of an idea. Yeah. And then the last stream, I let you know about making multiple kind of iterations of the same idea. So you will have some parts on the screen which are worked out, and you'll know what parts you're going to play. Yeah, whether those parts that you play are instruments, yeah, or if you're not an instrumentalist, knobs, like automation and stuff like that. It doesn't matter, right? But essentially what you need to have if you're going to do dynamic drafting, dynamic arranging, is some parts already written, which are static, and which stay the same just for the drafting process, just for the drafting performance, if you like, and some which you're going to play. And you want to know what's what. Okay, so for instance, in my case right now, I've got the Moog DFAM playing the kick and the bass kind of ish, and I've got the Mother 32 playing a hat, very expensive hat machine that I have, and I've got the Sub Harmonicon, which has two VCOs, one of which is playing the kind of bassy. In fact, they're both playing bassy things, but they're playing two different parts. I'll actually play it to you. So that's VCO 1 part, right? And this is the VCO 2 part. So many things to think about with this. It's like so many buttons. Yeah, okay. So essentially I've got those two different parts. They can play together. They're very related, as you've heard. Yeah. I've got the DFAM that I can change a bit. I can change the sound of it. I can change the rhythm of it very, very easily. I've got the hat, similar to the DFAM, but then I've got the piano, yeah? Okay, now, because I've been practicing this for a while, I can do lots and lots of things. So I can change all of these things here. I can change releases. I can change things like that. I can play different things on the piano. I can also automate. I've got all of the delays and stuff automated here. I've got this. See if I can just show you. No. There we go. So this Maschine Mark III is simply a very expensive MIDI controller at the moment. I'm not doing anything in terms of the machine. I've just got it mapped so that I can do delay stuff. Yeah, and if I move to the screen, I've got all these different delay units that I can play with. Yeah, I could play with them all at the same time if I wanted. And that's all mapped within here. And I can change the level of... Hush now. There we go. Yeah, I can change all of the level of that stuff with this. Sorry, I can't see that. With this. Okay. So I've got a lot. I mean, I've got a lot to play with right now, and it's way. I mean, if you were just starting to make your process dynamic, I wouldn't suggest having that amount of stuff. It's a lot to think about already with me. Okay. So what I would suggest doing at the start is, in your idea, you just choose one thing, just one thing to play. Okay, rather than the 1, 2, 3, sort of 6 that I've got. That's where I would start. Okay, so you've got a number of different parts which are essentially static. Now, those parts don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be right. Yeah, because remember, we can edit these things later on. We can change these things. Or more importantly, we can do more takes. We can do a take, learn from it, and then do another one. Learn from that, and then do another one. Yeah. So again, I want you to start thinking, if you want to do this, if you want to be more dynamic, instead of thinking about, I just need to put the parts in and then I will edit them later. What you want to think about is, I'm going to record a take. Yeah, and then I'm going to record, and then I'm going to do another practice, and then I'm going to record another one, and then I'm going to record another one. Yeah, so you do end up having a lot more material, but it's almost like you're practicing and producing at the same time. So a session is more like a performance than it is checking your emails. Yeah. Now, so you've got some static parts. If you're in a DAW, what I would suggest you do is just almost randomly lay out the static parts on the screen. Or just have it going as a groove and delete some of the rhythm every now and again. It's really as simple as that. You just don't need to worry about it. Again, you can edit this stuff later and be static at the end. I mean, you probably won't end up doing that so much because of the practice that you'll do, but just kind of put your thinking, your conscious, oh no, what are you doing, aside, thinking, well, it's all right, I can always sort it out later. Yeah. So just lay out the parts you've got on the screen and almost randomly delete some of them here and there. Yeah. So you've just got this random arrangement, but it's just something for you to play whatever you're going to play over. Now, if it's a guitar, a filter envelope or whatever it might be, something that you're going to have some fun with. Think about what you enjoy doing. Think about having some fun. Yeah, let's be less serious about it. Okay. And then the next thing to think about, so really with that, what you've done is you set up a situation where you can perform an arrangement of the thing that you're performing. Yeah. So for me, it's the whole thing, but I've been doing it a little while every day. So that's why. But for you, just start with one thing. Okay. Then you've got this almost random arrangement of the static parts which you've decided upon on the screen. And remember, it doesn't have to be good because you're just going to have some fun, right? What you've got on the screen doesn't have to be good, just something, yeah? Think of a story you'd like to tell. I mean, you can do this before the arrangement, but the reason I'm saying don't do it before the arrangement is because if you think of it before, it depends on where you're at. But I can imagine a lot of people, if you're in a static mindset, if I say, think of a story you'd like to tell, and then arrange the static parts in a way which tell that story, you're instantly going to get lost in the loop again and lost in that. Yeah. So it's almost like just randomly put something on the screen and then think of a story that you'd like to tell with your dynamic parts. Yeah. So if you're already used to playing a lot of stuff in, yeah, it doesn't have to be one part. It depends on where you're at. Because remember, being dynamic is about how much you practiced and the skill level you're at of whatever is the thing that you're doing. Yeah, and remember, with getting better at anything, if you overwhelm yourself, you're going to get demotivated, bored, and frustrated. Similarly, if you make it too easy, you're going to get bored and frustrated. Yeah, so it just needs to be a little bit beyond what you can do now. Okay? So what you're doing with your dynamic parts is you are telling a specific story. Now, it can be anything like a really mundane story if you want, like losing my key, because I've got this recurring problem where I always lose my keys. So I could tell a story of losing my keys. Oh no, where are my keys? I got to look for them. I look for them everywhere. Oh, and I found them. So, I mean, it can be something as mundane as that. Or it can be, meeting your first love and what happened there. Okay. Or it can be anything. It can be a fantastical story, anything you want. But the trick here is really to understand that almost every story has pretty much the same structure. And I'm going to give it to you right now. Okay. So if you're like, well, I don't know, how do I tell a story in music? Right. Let's just say that almost every story that's ever been written goes like this. We have our hero, heroine in a particular situation. So that's the start of the story. Something happens which they have to overcome, some problem or challenge or difficulty. Yeah, they have a mission to fulfill of some kind. They struggle. Yeah, so number one, starting point. Number two, struggle. Number three, in some way, that struggle is resolved. Yeah, now it doesn't necessarily get resolved positively. Yeah, it could be that, like at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, things are worse than they were at the beginning. Yeah, or it could be that that you blow up the Death Star. Woohoo! Use the Force, Luke. Yeah, and that struggle is resolved in a positive manner. But basically, what it is, very simple: exposition, development, struggle, endpoint. Resolution. Okay, so in a piece of, and what you'll notice is, now I've talked about that structure. A lot of music, I would even go as far as to say most music has that basic structure to it. So if you're going, oh God, if I always use that structure, won't all my music sound the same? Well, if all music, well, not all music, if 80% of music that's ever been written, if you think all of that sounds the same, then yeah, you've got something to worry about. But that's basically the structure of a lot of music: exposition, development, resolution. Okay, so you can just use that very kind of basic structure in your head, or you can think about a specific story, okay, with that same structure. Okay, and then your goal is essentially to perform that in whatever you're doing dynamically. Okay. Now there are some more complicated structures, like there's the Aristotelian 5-part drama, which has a few extra sections. It's still got that same basic structure to it, but there's an extra second and fourth section. But I won't go into it now. But for now, just think about that 3 parts. Yeah, exposition, struggle, resolution. Yeah. And then the final thing that you want to do is you want to put some limitations on yourself. Okay. So, for instance, I'm going to perform this arrangement, yeah, in 5 minutes. So it's going to be a 5-minute arrangement or a 10-minute arrangement. Okay. Other things that, we've already put limitations on ourselves by saying, I'm only going to perform this one part, right? Another limitation is I've already laid out this structure. Yeah. Again, you could decide on the story and then lay out the structure, but I just want you to be careful in that case of falling into the static, I'm going to make the perfect structure to perform over. Just don't worry about it. Yeah, really. Because you're going to be practicing your way into this. Yeah. Yes, Mr. Bird, that is a BeatStep. This is a BeatStep Pro at the bottom. Okay. So yeah, Tim's just saying, a lot about being a composer for me is always searching for that elusive sound, song, vibe. When you think you have that, you really want to grab hold of it and keep it safe. You have the secret. Yeah, I think, Tim, that you want to. Okay, so put it this way. I want to sit on the sofa, drink beer, eat pizza, and watch sci-fi movies. That doesn't mean it's good for me, right? That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. Okay, so I would strongly recommend, Tim, as a composer, letting go of that need to keep anything safe. Because I can promise you that that elusive sound, that elusive song vibe did not happen by playing it safe, right? It happened probably in the moment when you were just not caring. Well, when I say not caring, being carefree, when you were not playing it safe. Yeah, that right there, that mindset shift is a game changer. Let go of the need to keep things safe. You have infinite creativity at your disposal to make ever better ideas in your future. You don't need to keep things safe. Yeah, that's why, like, when I lose stuff, it's just no problem, because I'm like, I'll just make something else. Just take that approach and it unlocks something. It makes everything so much easier. You have more fun. It's just a really good place to be. It's freedom. It's creative freedom is what it is. Yeah. And you know what? The other thing that happens when you do this, when you let go like this, is that sound, that vibe, you realize it's not elusive. It's right there, available. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Fair enough, but it's not elusive. Yeah. If you open the door, inspiration will come in. But you know what? Playing it safe is closing the door and chaining it, like locking it. Okay? Safety isn't where you're going to find that sound. You know that. You know this. I know you know this. Okay. So, all right. So, just to recap, and I'm just going to show you what you do. So what you've really got, yeah. I mean, you can do other things as well, like you can draw things and you can write things down and stuff, but I'm not going to go into that now, right? But essentially, what you've got is you've got some parts randomly laid out on the screen. They're the static parts. Yeah. You've got identified the things that you're going to perform, right? And you've also, you know how long you're going to perform it for. Yeah. And you also have a structure for your performance. Yeah. So, and the structure I would suggest, because it's how the structure of most music is exposition, struggle, resolution. Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be a good resolution. It can be a negative resolution, but it lands somewhere. Yeah. Another thing that you can do, by the way, if you don't want to lay your parts out on a screen, is use a sequencer, like you use a sequencer in a DAW and have it just randomly coming in and out. And you can do that with a lot of software sequencers now. Okay, but anyway, so let's just say you're doing it the normal way of laying parts out on a screen. Okay, now what your goal is to, in a session, so you've got this all set up. Yeah, you know what you're about to do. Now what you want to do is you want to sort of tell yourself, okay, I'm going to perform this arrangement. Say you're going to do it for 5 minutes. In this session, I'm going to perform this arrangement 4 times. Okay. And similar to what I was talking about, the idea generation, where you perform the arrangement, then you report on it, and then you perform the arrangement, and then you report on it, you review. Yeah. Essentially, you're doing it multiple times. So you're let's say you've got a DAW file open, you do the arrangement for different times on the screen. What that does, the reason you're doing that is, number one, you're practicing. Number two, you're learning from the previous times that you've done it. Number four, you're actually capturing, because you'll be recording it at the same time. So you're recording the automation in, or you're recording in your guitar. Yeah. Number three, you're actually capturing lots of stuff that if you wanted to, you could edit in later. Yeah. So you're learning and you're developing. You're practicing, and you're doing what you'd do anyway if you were trying to get the perfect take the first time, right? Yeah. So you do that, and then you're done. You export the various different arrangements, and then you don't worry about it. You do the same thing with another track, and you can come back to that later. So this is what you're doing. So you're doing multiple different arrangements, different performances of that track. What you could also do is not record them all if you wanted, and just practice a few times and then record something. But I just like recording everything, not because I'm going to go back to it necessarily, just because it adds that element of risk, which I need. Yeah, that just engages me. Yeah. So let me just get some water. I'm going to do this right now. So I'm going to see, hang on, where are we? 6:03. So I'm just going to do a quick arrangement, and I will show you what I do. For the review, I'll just talk it through. I'll just talk through what I do with the review afterwards, so that you can see me actually doing it. And I'm going to keep this to 5 minutes. Okay. I'll just set it up here, so that you can see. I mean, you can kind of hear what I'm doing in the arrangement. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the mic so I don't kill you with feedback. Right, so yeah, sorry about that. I was just saving it as something else and showing you that I can record over here. I realized I had myself muted. So anyway. So 6:06, I need to stop by 6:11. Okay, my time. Okay, so did you hear the structure? So there was the exposition where basically you just started with the rhythm. It kind of came in weird because I didn't have things turned up and stuff like that. It doesn't matter though. Yeah, it was just a take, just a kind of performance, right? It started, and then I think it was when the kit came out or something, and I brought in the other stuff, and I did that delay thing on the piano. That was the start of the struggle. Yeah, and I think I stopped the, what was it called? The chord progression happening. So it just stayed on the one note. So that was the struggle, and it kind of built up, and then it kind of broke down, and it came back to a resolution. So I was literally in my mind as I was doing it, thinking of what was happening next and how I could do that in the music. Okay. Now, in certain situations, I will be thinking about a particular story. I'll be like literally expressing something. So I did a live stream, when was it? 3 days ago, called Everything Is Nothing. And that was expressing something about one of my kids, Charlie, one of my boys, who said something amazing. You know, children have an amazing ability to like totally blow your mind with their understanding of the universe. He said, basically we had this conversation, and he's like 8, and he said, so basically what you're saying, Dad, or it doesn't, Daddy, what you're saying, Daddy, is everything is nothing. And I was like, yeah, okay. That's basically, yeah, you basically summed up an entire religion right there in one statement. But yes, that's basically what I'm saying. And what I was expressing there was our conversation, because he came to me with a problem. He came to me and he said, Daddy, is there such a thing as exactly the same color? In other words, what he was saying was, can you reproduce exactly the same color? And I was like, oh, yeah. So, yeah. And I kind of explained a few things about that there isn't such a thing as color and everything. And that actually color is just something that we have named a certain like area of the, I don't know which spectrum it is, some spectrum or other. And that, you know, certain cultures don't have different words for yellow, green, and brown. So they don't see yellow, green, and brown. They just see different shades of the same color. And I sort of, you know, told him about this, and he ended on, so basically what you're telling me is everything is nothing. I was like, obviously very proud of his like, yeah. And so basically in that live stream performance, whatever, I was thinking about that, and I was kind of expressing it was like I had it in mind as I was following the structure, our conversation, and sort of how I felt about that. You know, it was a very kind of personal sort of story that I was telling, if you like. And so I do that sometimes. This one's called, well, originally it was called Diadem, which is the name for a crown. I just used the name Diadem because I think it's a cool word. It doesn't particularly talk about anything. It's just, I'm just using that same structure. So you can either, specifically use a story, or you can just use the structure. So what I do next is I do a review. So what I would do is in my Trello, I won't show you now because we're getting to the end of time, but I would then write down, number 1, how addicted was I out of 10? Number 2, what went well? Number 3, actually, let's just say the score. So there's the addiction level score. So I say I'd give myself a 7 or an 8. One of the reasons being that there's people watching, and I've explained it, and I wanted to show you well what it was. So it was kind of, the risk was high, so the addiction level was high. Yeah, that was really kind of engaged in it. The next thing is what went well. Well, what went well was that it did actually follow the structure. I didn't get lost. There weren't any major errors. There were a few things that I was a bit, so there weren't any major errors. The other thing that went well is that this take, as far as I remember, this performance was better than the other two because it's the 3rd time I've done it and I've practiced. So that went well. Yeah. Next question. What were the problems? So the problems are for me at the moment that I'm getting confused. That it's like I've got the setup in a very different situation now than it was when I was doing it before. So I'm pretty overwhelmed with where things are. I'm like, and I'm doing the live stream, and yeah. So that is a problem. What will I do differently? Is the final question, right? So what I will do differently is I'm going to lower the bar. I'm going to figure out what I can do to do less next time. Okay, so it might be I need to create more limitations, or I need to create more regulations, or I need to have something in there more fixed. Yeah, so maybe I will just say to myself, I'm not going to change anything about the DFAM rhythm. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove it and bring it in. Or maybe I'm not going to change anything about the Mother 32. So all I'm playing with is the piano and the delays and the subharmonicon. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do differently. So what you're doing by doing that review is you're reporting on what happened, on your performance, on how you felt, not so much the result of it. That comes into it, but it's like that will come into your addiction level, right? So you're reporting on that, you're saying what went well, you're saying what the problems are, and then what you're going to do to improve next time. And then you do another take. So probably what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to stop this live stream and I'm going to do another one. I'll probably call it Quattrodem or something ridiculous like that. Okay, I'll do another performance, and I think probably then I'm good, right? Then I can, if 4 of them is probably enough for me to move on to something new. Yeah, and later on, because I have the recordings of these different pieces of music, I will listen and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to take this one forward, and I'll have those files to do whatever I need to do with. Yeah, there doesn't even need to be a great take, because I can always add stuff later. Yeah. So, with all that said, are there any questions about what I've just shown you? I mean, there's a lot more to say. There's a lot more to, that you can do. There's a lot more specifics that you can do. As I said, I'm doing this program where I can actually get you to do the stuff. You'll do it yourself. But this is the basic kind of structure of what you're doing. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this particular... Will I stop it? Will I just do another one? I think I'm just going to do one. I'm just going to finish this with one more performance of this particular track. So I'm going to call it, I'm going to rename it as Quattrodem. You could just do it. You could just do it as 1, 2, 3, 4. But as I'm keeping up this whole thing, diadem, duodem, triodem, and quattrodem. Could go on forever, couldn't I? So I'm going to do one more performance, one more recording, and then we will close it down. I'll just check. Yeah, I'll do one more performance, and I'll just check to see if there are any questions before I go. So mute myself. I'm going to have to sort this out better, so I don't have to do this. But anyway. In fact, what I can do is I can literally do the thing I said I was going to do, so that you can see that. I might as well do that, mightn't I? All right, so let's keep the rhythm the same. So let's just make it into something that's halfway decent. I'll do that right now. In fact, I know what I can do. I can use headphones. Duh. Where are my headphones? I've lost them. Oh, don't worry. I'll just mute myself. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get the DFAM rhythm, the DFAM and the Mother 32 rhythm sounding okay, so that I can just focus on, so I'll bring them in and out with muting on the desk. So I'm not going to be changing those, so I don't have to think about that. And I'm only going to be dealing with the piano and the subharmonicon. So I'm literally responding to what I learned from the last session. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself so you won't hear me for a bit. So I set up the rhythm, so it's sounding vaguely okay. So what I'm going to do in order to create the arrangement is I'm going to use the desk to mute and unmute. Okay, so now I've reduced the number of things I've got to think about. Yeah, which goodness knows what will happen. You know, randomness does occur, so it might be worse. But you know, that's part of it. Yeah. So now all I have to really focus on is muting and unmuting, and the piano and the subharmonicon. Okay, so let's do this final version. So press record. And let's just turn it on to the screen. Mute myself so I don't kill your ears. Now that's what I call a resolution. Okay. So again, I'll do it after this. I won't do it now because I don't bore you. But I will do another review. Yeah. I'm going to export the resulting recordings. And I'm not going to listen to them all. Yeah. Again, I'm very relaxed about kind of finding the right thing. Yeah. But I will remember these individual tracks, and if I want to actually finish these and release them, I've now got a bunch of recordings that I can use to actually finish them. And again, how I use those recordings is more dynamic than you think it is. Okay, that's a whole other sort of area that we won't go into now. But really, what you want to take from this is performing things and doing it multiple times. So again, you're front loading the effort and the time to before the process, not after it. Again, using the audio file, you might think, well, I've got all of the audio files. How am I going to edit that into? There's a whole thing that you can do there as well. But really, before you do that, you want to do this, because eventually, I mean, it may well be the case that one of those versions, I just end up picking one of them. One of the 4 that I've done, and I just mix that one. And again, mixing is something that you can do more dynamically, that you can have more fun with, that doesn't have to be this like process. But I think one of the things is that you probably won't have to do, just going back to what Tim said, is to do that is that does need to be a kind of letting go, if you like. So fabulous. No more questions. So it's been great to hang out. Sorry about the feedback and the issues with the mic. I've obviously, in my rush to get all of this sorted, I forgot that there are these things called headphones that can sort out this problem. So I apologize about that. Tomorrow, an hour and a half before now, I will be talking about mixing and a dynamic mixing process, or more dynamic mixing process. Obviously, mixing is something that is less dynamic just by its very nature, but you still can take an approach which is, I don't know, it's much more fun, if you like. One thing about that, I might not be doing as much demonstration. It'll be more kind of telling you what to do, simply because I'm still in the process of setting up. So I'm doing less mixing at the moment, but I will tell you all about that tomorrow. So until then, oh yeah, and if you are interested in the 7-day Track Blitz program, which is a week-long program of 4 live online workshops, which will also be recorded, where I actually give you specific exercises to do. You can ask questions. I'll be, coaching you. Then simply send me an email to mike@makemusicyourlife.com. Put in the subject line 7-day Track Blitz, and I will send you all the details. So, yes, there's a replay of this session, Kev. Just on, I don't close these sessions on this Zentor channel. Oh yeah, and if you're not subscribed to this channel, then please consider doing that. It really helps me out. So until tomorrow, onwards and upwards.